Hello and welcome everybody, and thank you for joining me into the next guide part in the Black Desert beginner guide series on how to start playing Black Desert. God, this is a long and awful title. I'll probably change that. My name is Wilkie, and yeah, I assume if you're watching this video, you either watched the other two videos or you're still maybe inconclusive as to whether or not you should be playing the game. Though I don't think this video will actually help you decide on whether this game is for you or not. So if you still have concerns, feel free to ask me or anybody else, or check the forums, or just post a comment down below and you might be able to find the answer you're looking for. Anyways, in this video I'll be hopefully in less than 10 minutes. I'll try to squeeze these information in, and yeah, I'll try to give you guys a quick understanding and a couple key features and facts about the game that will probably be helpful and good to know before you actually start Black Desert, or if you're very new to the game. Now, the first thing I want to mention here is an advice that basically is, I guess, common sense, but due to the nature of how the game was played a while ago, the internet might still be full of them. And what I'm talking about is that a lot of people were looking up guides on how to level up as quick as possible, how to progress, and stuff like that. And this made perfect sense when the game launched back in the head start and when it was new, because this game is open world with limited resources. So that basically meant the first one to be a high level or level 50 or whatever kinda, was able to grab these resources without much or without any competition at all. And that was a very appealing thing, or generally is very appealing in any open world MMO for that matter. However, this doesn't really apply to the current state of the game anymore, because the game launched back in March and we're almost in 2017, so you get the idea that there is actually very little to no value to try and rush to a certain level at this point. So what I do not recommend, and yeah, this is pretty much just based on the fact that rushing is, well, not stupid, but you're just gonna cut down your fun and you're probably gonna deviate from the experience you could otherwise be having by exploring at least parts of the world of Black Desert. So what I do not recommend is following these level 1 to 50 in 10 hours or whatever these guides are, because like I said, there is no value in stressing yourself, there is no value in rushing to level 50 at this point anymore. What I do recommend though, or rather what's good about these guides, is that they will tell you and they will give you a very good clue on which level you should be at what mobs. And this is going to be important because the main way of progressing in this game is through grinding, at least in early stages. Later on you can easily progress through life skills. Yeah, either life skills or grinding, basically, that's it. But you can then choose to do certain different activities. However, first off, I'd recommend get a semi-high level that will allow you to access different things, as well as give you kind of like a fallback safe character that you can either use to farm money in case you need some, or to hunt world bosses, or whatever activity it may be that you're looking up to do. So what I do recommend is, if you have trouble leveling up in the game, check out these guides to get an idea on where you should be grinding. However, don't follow their route, and most importantly, do not rush the game. Play at your own pace. This is very important, because if you're trying to rush, you're gonna get burned out, because you can catch up to the veteran and the remaining players. That's definitely doable. However, you're not gonna be catching up within 10, 20, or even 50, or even 100 hours. There's a long road ahead of you if you're trying to shake things up and you're trying to get into the top 10% or even higher percent of the player base. So definitely don't worry about that in the first, let's say, 20 hours you're in the game. What I do recommend, and that is, I guess, still in the first part of the tip, is basically follow the main quest line at least. And you'll be reading that questing is useless. That is not actually true. Doing all of the quests is probably a waste of time. I'd have to agree on that. Doing the main quest though is actually pretty good. Not only will that lead you around different parts of the map, It'll also help you to progress your character. You'll be rewarded with contribution, inventory expansions, upgrade materials, different items, and most importantly, you'll basically get to know the game a bit and get a feeling on how questing works and how different progressions can be. So this is pretty much how I would recommend you play the game. You can still grind if you really want to, like there's nobody that's gonna stop you, and it's not a bad thing. However, there are some quests that are mandatory, and at least doing the inventory quests is actually a pretty good thing, and I definitely recommend at least doing those. Now, let's go on to the second thing I think that can be very helpful and I guess will make your life a lot easier in the beginning stage of Black Desert. And that would be is to not worry about a lot of things in the game. Your main goal, and that is purely subjective because this is my opinion. There might be different approaches and you might have a different opinion and you might have a different playstyle. That is very well viable as well. However, what I think is the best approach to the game at the moment is to get the first character you actually like playing with to level 50 and then start looking into certain things. Two of these things would be in the top left corner. Let me finish these mobs real quick. So if you take a look at the top left corner, so you can see this maybe, you can see your experience bar, which is at the very top. And then below that you'll see your skill points, and below that you'll see two different bars, the first one saying energy and the second one saying contribution points. Now these points hold very little to no value early on for you in the game. This is the prime example of what I think you should not worry about in the game if you just start. Later on it'll become much clearer what these, I guess, resources you could call them are for. So I definitely recommend do not worry about these things too much at the beginning of the game. As soon as you have a level 50 and you progressed a bit, you got acquainted with the game, then I'd say you can start looking into these things like contribution, energy, as well as life skills and other things. There are plenty of guides of people that explained how to obtain those points, what they are used for and stuff like that, so I'll probably not be making a guide for that. You can pretty much just look those up and they should still be very much up to date because that system didn't really change. But other than that, like I said, try to not worry about everything the game throws at you because that's just too much. There's a lot of things. It's quite confusing at the beginning, I do have to say that, so it will probably require a bit of reading, maybe watching videos, maybe, you know, talking to other people in order to fully understand what the game is all about. But as soon as you're, you know, on a playing field where you say you basically understood how the game works and you understood some of the mechanics, then it's probably a better time to get into more in-depth stuff, which this falls into. Anyways, the third thing I'd like to mention, which is very good to know for a new player, is that if you don't have a character yet and you're just freshly logged into your account and you want to create a character, you will be prompted to select a family name. Now you may think, what is this? And basically, I mean, that is kind of self-explanatory, I guess. But the family name, you might have noticed that above my character I have actually two names or two tags. And the first one is the family name and the second one is the character name. Now this is just basically a label that will be displayed above all of your characters, obviously. But there come a few features with this family system, or I should probably call it account system. Because what the family basically is your account. And what this means is there is progress that is linked to your character, and there is progress that is linked to your account or family. And things, for example, that are linked to your character are pretty obvious, like character XP, that makes sense. Skill points and stuff like that, that is directly linked to your character. So each of your characters, regardless how many you make, will have their own experience, will have their own pool of skill points. So this is something that will not carry over. What will carry over though is a multitude of things. Now, what's probably one of the best feature or best things that will carry over is the map progress. So that means everything I see here on my main character, I will also be able to see on any of my alts, which is very good because that makes progression on the second, third, or how many characters you ever want to make much easier, because you already know where to go and you can just click on it on the map because you've actually been there already. So this is really good, and this is one of the very cool features. The second and third thing, or what also carries over, is in fact energy and contribution. Those are not linked to your character, but instead linked to your family. So you can use different characters to try to increase either energy or contribution, which, like I said, once you're back, or once you're started and you kinda got acquainted with the game, it makes sense to take a look at these things. But just to keep that in mind, there are things that are progressed or that are saved to your family rather than your character. Is there anything else that can be used with this family system? Hell yeah, there is, and this is probably one of the biggest assets this game has, because making alts is actually quite useful, and I probably make a different video to explain why. Let's just say, at least having filled up all of your character slots with fluff characters that are just level 6 is good. Even if they're just sitting around, it is good to have them. And you probably have to watch another video, or I'll explain it in a different video on why that is. But basically, having alts is a good thing. But by alts, I don't necessarily mean it's good to have 8 level 56 characters. That's probably not the best thing to do. You should try and figure out a main character you want to play, maybe get an alt or two for bosses, but don't go overboard and play every class, let's say more than 10 hours maybe at max, unless you really like exploring every class and you don't really care about progressing one of these characters to the maximum. Then I'd say it's perfectly fine, but generally what you will want to try to do is figure out the class you want to play, and yeah, basically look out for the main class. But back to the family system, this is, I guess, kinda unique. And by unique I basically mean Black Desert and the gearing doesn't have any level requirements, and what that means is not only can every character at every level wear any item they could normally wear, so basically everything that is not restricted to classes can be worn by everybody. So basically the armor and accessories I have on my 59 character, I can just basically transfer to my level 6 alt if I wanted to, freely. All I have to do is go to a bank or a storage, dump my items into, log onto the alt, go to the storage and take them out. And what this basically enables you, and this is also the reason why I said one of your main goals should be to get a level 50 character, because at this point you probably have at least somewhat decent gear, is that it makes leveling up alts much easier, because what you then can do is you pretty much learned about the game, you know about the quest you have to do and stuff like that, you got acquainted with it. So what you then can do is transfer parts of your gear, your armor, your accessories, which will then allow your secondary or whatever alt it is to progress much quicker and easier. So you see where this is going, that actually putting time and effort into one character first will then enable you to progress different characters much easier and much faster. So I definitely think this is a very good goal to have, because even if you plan on not PvPing and you just want to do life skills, I definitely recommend get to a decent standing, so you know, you can fend for yourself, you can farm for yourself, and you can basically do your living by not being depending on anybody else. So this is definitely something I very much recommend. If you plan on making alts, just remember that you can switch armor, accessories, and to some extent weapons, because obviously classes like Valkyrie and Warriors, they both use swords and shields, so you can even swap your weapons. But for example, the Ranger uses a bow and a dagger, and for example my Musa uses a blade and a bow, but the bow is a secondary weapon, so it's not actually the same thing the Ranger is using, so I can't swap the weapons, but I would still be able to swap the armor and accessories, which would make it much easier. So this is, I guess, my second last advice I would be able to give you. is, along with the first ones, get something to level 50, and do keep in mind that you can easily switch gear from one character to another, making twinking and alting much easier if you have an initial set of gear. And is there anything else I could talk about? Probably not. And this might be a bit confusing because, like I said, the game has so many things to offer. So yeah, there is, unfortunately, I could probably fill hours and hours and hours of guides on how to do certain things and how to explain or how to play certain aspects of the game, which is not really the main course of the game, because what makes BDO so interesting is actually you learning how to do things, figuring out things, maybe even by trial and error, at least to some extent, is I think part of the experience and part of what makes Black Desert so great, because it doesn't serve you everything on a silver plate, but in fact you do have to take your own time to actually get to learn the game. Is there anything else I'd say don't worry about? Then I'd say yes, don't worry about things like housing, that falls into the same category as contribution and energy points. But other than that, the first 15 to 20 hours should probably be spent on, if possible, one character, progress it to 50, get some decent gear, and then decide for you which road you want to walk in Black Desert. Whether or not that may be a PvE road, that may be a life skiller, which is basically crafter. Maybe you go the fishing route. You just buy a fishing boat and you just spend your whole time on the ocean. There's a lot of people that do that, and that is perfectly viable. So whatever it is you like doing, try to figure that out, but like I said, at the beginning of the game, get to level 50, get a decent standing, and yeah. That is pretty much all I can give you so far. I guess one last tip I could be giving you is, if you're more of a social person, if you're more of a social person, then what I definitely recommend you doing is try to look for a guild. Guilds can be very helpful in this game. There are some drawbacks to a guild, but usually the benefits outweigh the drawbacks quite a bit. And then you may ask yourself, but hey, you're not in a guild yourself. Well, because for me, as it is right now, I'm literally playing a catch-up game, because right now I can't really PvP all too good, so what I have to do is get my gear going and my level, and the guild doesn't really help me doing that at the moment, and it would only hinder me because it would enable certain people to hunt me down without any penalties. And this way I'm pretty much safe from, well, not really griefing, but just guild wars, and any feuds that were happening between guilds are basically of no concern to me. Also, I have no obligations, I have no, mandatory things I have to do. I don't have to worry about guildies, I don't have to worry about anything else, I'm just playing the game at my own pace. However, like I said, if you do play the game in a bit of a more social way and you like people to play with, then I'd definitely recommend trying to get into a guild. Anyways, this was much longer than I hoped it would be, but yeah, hopefully this is something that'll help you guys on your journey into the game. Like I said, if there's anything else that is unclear, feel free to let me know, and I'll definitely hook you up with more information. Why do I keep saying that? Information. God damn it. But if there's anything else, and I'll be sure to make more guides. Like I said, I'll probably cover certain aspects more in depth, or if not, I'll just give you links to certain other guides people already made. So, anyways, am I going to make a TLDR? I don't know, I could try, and that would basically be, the TLDR would probably be, get to level 50, play at your own pace, follow the main quests, don't worry about everything, just focus on getting one character to level 50, try to learn the game, and if possible, find a guild or people to play with, and you should be on a very good road in Black Desert. Anyways, like I said, if there's anything else, if there's something that was confusing, feel free to let me know, and yeah, hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video, whether or not this will be a guide or something else, I don't know yet. So take care, and yeah, hopefully see ya.